every man I dated, I knew wasn't the right guy to have a child with. And I knew that wouldn't have been the right thing to do for the child.
When it comes to the desire to have children, we humans make up quite the spectrum. Some want to have huge families, enough to fill a basketball team. Others just want one, and then maybe down the road, when they see what it's like, they might want another. And some don't want kids at all. But the truth is, no matter our desires, well, we just aren't always in control of what comes next. Gloria knew she wanted to have kids, but when she realized that she couldn't necessarily control when, or even if, she was going to find the right partner, that's when she started to look into things that she could control. So Gloria decided to pursue motherhood without a partner. And today, she's going to share her experiences with us. I'm Dan Bulger with Progyny, and this is Infertility. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. Before we dive into Gloria's story, I just want to take a second to remind you that we have some resources available for anyone who might want to bring fertility and family building programs to their employer. Those resources are at progyny.com/talktohr. Progyny, for those who might not know, is a benefit that employers can offer their employees. And we can help with things like preconception, fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and menopause. If you're curious about bringing Progyny to your employer, you should visit progyny.com/talktohr. There you'll get information that you need, and hopefully we can get the ball rolling for you. Okay, let's get to know Gloria.
My name's Gloria. I'm originally from Minnesota. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee at the age of 23.
Gloria works for one of the largest home improvement retailers, and from a young age, she understood that she needed to prioritize education and career in order to support herself.
I had to financially provide for myself. Where my parents gave us everything we needed, we had to provide what we wanted. So I knew through that I had to get an education, chose to go out of state, got a great job right out of college, but I had to work literally almost my life away. So in my 20s, I worked like nonstop. I didn't really have a chance to make a balance of a work life and family life. I knew my first goal was to pay off college. So my whole life, I've literally always planned every step.
Yes, Gloria is a planner, which is something that will come in handy down the road. But she learned in her 20s and early 30s that sometimes things just don't go according to plan.
I kind of, in your mind growing up, you have your plan, like you're going to be married probably by the age of 25 or 30. That really wasn't in the cards for me. So my career had to come first in order to know that my next stage in life was going to be supported, that when I did have children, I would have the financial stability.
Yeah, for Gloria, there was no sense in settling on a bad fit when it comes to a relationship. And that was really the driving force behind her decision to pursue single parenthood.
And then for me to truly make that choice to go forward, to go single with this choice, every man I dated, I knew wasn't the right guy to have a child with. And I knew that wouldn't have been the right thing to do for the child. And I have some friends that are a little in an older generation of mine, and they're at a stage of life, and they say, "Oh my God, I wish I did what you did because I was trying to find the man before the child." I come from a very tight family. Like my mom and dad, I think they met when they were like 12 and they're still together. So I had that great example in my life. And if it was ever the wrong man, and that was the case, like that would have been the wrong move to where this was the right move. So I knew when I hit 35, that was like my time to do this.
Okay, let's do a little quick recap of Human Reproduction 101. For a baby to be born, there are a few things that you need. You need an egg, you need some sperm, and you need a uterus. Gloria was all set on the egg and the uterus, so she just needed some sperm. Her plan was to work with a fertility clinic, find a sperm donor from an agency, and then utilize intrauterine insemination, or IUI, where sperm is placed directly into the uterus using a small catheter. And the hope is that the sperm will reach the fallopian tubes, where it will meet an ovulated egg, and pregnancy will occur. First step is connecting with a doctor. And for that, Gloria was actually covered. Her employer offers the Progyny fertility and family building benefit.
I reached out to my PCA, kind of talked to her about like what my goal was, my plans, and we were able to get the ball rolling. I think it was even within the next month I had my first appointment. She was so inviting and friendly and just understanding, and she's able to recommend me to Nashville Fertility Clinic, and they were great. She was She was available when I needed her, but it was nice because it didn't always have to be a phone call. Like if it could be a message or something, especially this day and age, everybody's so busy, and she was very timely in getting back, and it was good.
All right, so she had the Progyny benefit in hand. She was able to see the doctor that she wanted to see. So the first step was to go through some tests and check her fertility, and then to find a sperm donor.
They test like your blood type, if you're compatible with your donor, and all of that. And the doctor was very, very upfront, saying, I mean, hey, we got to check like your egg count and all kinds of things. And we did that. We did the initial tests, and quite honestly, I think we got them all done within the first month. And then she was very open about what type of donor I should look for, and it's nothing to do with characteristics like physical. It's more, for me personally, I have a negative blood type, so it was very recommended to find a donor that was. And that's why I said this was actually kind of a cool process, because in a way you're kind of ensuring your child is probably going to be more healthy or might not risk a factor that could be carried. So that was kind of a cool process. So we looked at a few things. We looked at that and wanted to make sure the CMV was negative to match mine. So that was kind of the things I was really, really looking for. She was very helpful with which chirobanks we could use. I like the one that if I paid just a tad extra, you could kind of see what they look like as adults. Having that advantage to kind of at least look at that, put kind of a weird sense of comfort through the whole thing to kind of know, okay, there is this. And it was kind of cool. Like they also had donor essays, so you kind of know like the job profession that the donor's in, kind of get a feel for this person even though you don't really know them, like, but you kind of get to know them through that process. So it was just kind of interesting. And then I was like, I just kind of liked what he did. I like that he was a social worker, because I was like, this kind of just shows his characteristics. Sort of his true mission is to help people, and what better way can this person help someone than giving a gift of life?
All right, so she found the donor that checked all the boxes for her, and when her test came back, she was given the green light to start an IUI cycle.
She felt with my egg count and where I was at, still only being 35, even though I told her I thought I was getting too old, she said that you would be a perfect candidate for an IUI. She did suggest that if we did up to 6 treatments, we might look into IVF, but she was very confident that she didn't have an outlook that we were going to end up on that. But she obviously, you got to lay it all out at the beginning. So we did the IUI process. I mean, I swear, I think the first month we did it was March, like right after, like that initial consultation. So the whole process moved really, really quick.
Things were moving fast. IUI is a great option, and a particularly great option for Gloria, who hadn't ever tried to conceive before. But one thing to note about IUI is that even when everything is optimal, sperm quality, egg count, and age, the success rates are still relatively low. So it's not uncommon to need to try a few cycles to find success.
The first month it didn't click. Like we did the injection, and you go back after 2 weeks, or almost, I think it's 10 days actually. And then you get another ultrasound just to verify that there's not an embryo or anything, and kind of go from there. So obviously the first time didn't take. The second time, that time it didn't take, and she thought maybe we could increase to a different fertility medication on the month we would have done the third time. And that produced like 5 follicles, and she said, no doctor in the world will inject you right now. And I said, I agree. We all want kids, but most people don't want 5 at a time.
Yes, that brings us to a very important part of any IUI discussion, and that's the risk of multiples. There are a couple of different ways to do an IUI cycle. One way is often called natural IUI, where fertility drugs aren't used, and the insemination is simply timed to ovulation. And the other is stimulated IUI. Now, stimulated IUI means that fertility medications are introduced to try to help increase the chances of success. Medications like clomiphene and letrozole are most commonly used. And then other medications are used to hold off ovulation and then to trigger ovulation in advance of the insemination. As I said, stimulating the ovaries can increase chances of success, but by causing more eggs to ovulate, the chances of multiples also increase. Now, by multiples, I mean twins or triplets. Twins, and especially triplets, are considered high risk. and doctors work hard to make sure their patients are not taking on additional risks during these procedures. The goal of modern fertility medicine is to have one healthy baby. So when her doctor saw 5 follicles, it was clear that would be way too risky, and therefore that cycle was abandoned. The doctor changed the medication protocol to get a different result, and then they tried again.
So like those first couple months were very crucial in balancing how much medication was needed. So like, as cliche as it sounds, the third time was a charm. So she figured out which one to prescribe and when to take it to have probably the optimal. So in June, we were successful. I know it was June 14th was the IUI. She had seen 3 follicles, and we did the injection, and like, there was just something about that one. I was like, this one worked. So it was kind of cool. I mean, I didn't even want to wait for the ultrasound where they actually do the ultrasound after 2 weeks. I actually went out and got a pregnancy test, and I saw the 2 lines. I was like, okay, cool. But I wasn't really too excited. Like, I didn't want to get overexcited because, you can have false positives, all that, especially with that amount of fertility medicine. So when we went in, we saw the follicle and the embryo actually take. That was kind of cool. And I think that is within 10 or 11 days, you can see it. It's so tiny, but you can see it. So we went there, and then after another 20 days, they check you again, and they pretty much just release you to your OB.
The third time was the charm, and sometime later, Gloria met her son, Emmett.
He came like right during the heart of the SEC tournament in Nashville, so I don't remember a whole lot about like the delivery, but for some reason I remember that TV was on for the basketball games going on in the choir. But it was really, really cool. He was actually a really, really long labor delivery. He went to 41 weeks, so I actually had an induction date scheduled for the day that he did arrive, but I went into labor the night before. I personally had a lot of issues with the delivery, but the baby was fine, and that's all that really mattered. Like, I ended up we had to use forceps, and which caused a third-degree laceration. So like, I immediately went into a blood transfusion. It was so weird because like, I knew they put him on you for a little bit, but they had to move him to take care of me. And then finally, when all of that's handled, got to just have that couple. Even like those first couple hours, so the hospital just looking at it was awesome. It was just so worth it.
Any new parent can tell you, but for a single parent, it's probably especially true. The experience of parenting a newborn completely hinges on the newborn's ability to sleep.
He is awesome. Might upset a whole lot of people, but he is the perfect baby. Since week 2, that child has slept all night. Like, he goes to bed at 8, he wakes up at 5. Like, I don't know how I got so lucky, but he is the perfect child.
We've done a few episodes of our show featuring single parents by choice at this point. And in our world here at Progyny, the decision to become a single parent is another wonderful option in the family building spectrum. But unfortunately, in the greater world, the idea can still seem a bit foreign to some, which is perhaps why Gloria loves to speak out about it so much.
I very proudly discuss it with people, like, especially even coming to the store. Like, my last store knew me. They knew like what I was going through, why I chose this. And now I'm like, they're like, okay, we have a new assistant store manager up here with a baby. What's up with this? So, I tell them about it. So, and it's just really cool because the more you talk about it, the more it becomes like accepted, and not like it shouldn't be accepted, but more of the norm. And like, hey, it's okay. Like I know my son, he is perfectly fine. Like, he's actually the best of all worlds right now.
The decision to have a baby is a deeply personal one. As we said at the top, there is a vast spectrum of family building desires out there, from those who don't want to have kids to those who want to have several, and everything in between. But for Gloria, who knew that she wanted to have a baby and knew that her best option was to do it on her own, the idea that her employer offered a benefit like this one was really impactful.
Yeah, just thank you, because you don't understand how much one benefit can really truly change a life. Like, I probably wouldn't have had that option to be able to have a child or children if I want to go through it again, if that benefit wasn't there.
For anyone out there who's listening to this and maybe on the fence about if they want to pursue parenthood in this way, we asked Gloria if she had any advice.
In this day and age, there are so many options available, and that child is not any less loved. And if anything, possibly more loved in a weird way, because people are like, oh, he did this, and he's got a story to tell, and it's going to be part of his journey too.
Yes, as Gloria pointed out, this is all going to be part of her son's journey in life. And there's actually another exciting part of that journey that we're thrilled to tell you about today. As we were producing this episode and putting everything together, Gloria emailed us with an update. Emmett, Gloria's son, is going to be a big brother, as she's now expecting her second child. I want to thank Gloria for joining us today and for sharing her story. I also want to thank you for listening. If you want to connect with us, you should do so on Instagram at This Is Infertility Podcast. If you want to follow Progyny, you can do that at Progyny Inc. Of course, if you're listening on a podcast app, please leave a rating or review. And if you're watching on YouTube, you got to smash the like button. This Is Infertility is brought to you by Progyny. Please remember, this podcast is not intended to substitute for the personalized expert advice of your physician. I'm Dan Bulger, and this is Infertility.